Hello, everyone. I'm Drachona, and I just wanted to talk about this National Walkout Month, or whatever you want to call it. Uh, I didn't know this was actually a thing. I did see someone on Facebook posting pictures of people walking out of the school. I thought maybe, I don't know, it was a gas leak or something like that. They didn't actually explain what it was. So I hadn't heard about this, and for the record, we don't have cable where I live, so I don't really get the news, and I don't often go online to look up news. Whenever something important happens, I hear about it from other people. So I'm reacting more specifically to this one article that I saw when I logged out of my email. I'm sure there are plenty of others, but it was on the Yahoo homepage. It says, students across the U.S. stage National Walkout Month after the Parkland Massacre. Students and teachers at more than 2,000 schools across the country staged a national walkout to call for an end to gun violence on Wednesday, 1 month after 17 people were killed in a mass shooting at a Florida high school. Okay. I just want to talk about how stupid this is. Like, look, I'm with you, okay? Something needs to be done about guns in this country. I'm not one of those extreme left people who is just like, we just need to, get rid of guns, or we need to blah, 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 blah. Just people who just shout gun control, but they don't actually put forth any kind of plan for what that will be. One thing I'll say, which I've talked about with my roommates and other people, first off, we should actually enforce some of the rules and laws that we have. Things like a dishonorably discharged veteran should not be able to buy guns. Somebody who's on an FBI watch list should not be able to buy guns. Now, if you get them illegally, that's a different thing. And I understand that part of this can come down to staffing. If we don't have enough people in these agencies to keep track of these things, but one way or another, these things have to be dealt with. We need to at least enforce the laws that we have, and we're not doing that. Honestly, not to sound conspiratorial here, but sometimes it kind of seems like very little is being done to prevent these things, and it would not be very hard to prevent them. But, hey, it certainly benefits the media. Whether they enjoy it or not, they are definitely benefiting from it. So anyway, I just want to talk about, so obviously this is unscripted. These are just my initial thoughts. I wanted to say something about this because to me this is so incredibly stupid. First off, what are you accomplishing by walking out of your schools? Are you raising awareness? That would be one thing if you wanted to raise awareness of something. Except, how are you raising awareness if everybody already knows what happened at Parkland? What are you accomplishing? I'm sure that there's some people have it in their heads that they're accomplishing something. I'm not against protests. I'm not against demonstrations. But you have to weigh what you're giving up, what you're losing, what you're doing versus the consequences of those actions. A great example of that was what happened in Charlottesville. And I'm not connecting these two. I'm just saying a great example is of what happened in Charlottesville. Okay, a bunch of white nationalists, neo-Nazis, white supremacists, broadly white supremacists were marching and chanting, well within their rights. I don't like these people. I don't agree with these people, but they were well within their rights. And conflict did not occur until protesters showed up. Now, I may have agreed with some of those protesters, certainly not Antifa. I mean, I'm not pro-fascist, but I just don't agree with their tactics. Their tactics, they've admitted themselves. It's about promoting fear. It's about being violent against supposed fascists. But the reality is, if those people had not shown up, nothing would have happened. They would have just marched until they stopped. And if for some reason they became violent, then the police could have gotten involved, and it would have been completely unambiguous. There would have been no question whose fault it was. It would have been their fault. When you get another group involved, it becomes a gray area. Who started the fight? Who's really at fault here? People are going to support the people who are fighting against the white supremacists, the white nationalists, because those people are white supremacists and white nationalists. They're going to support anyone who's opposed to that. But the reality is, those people are at least half as responsible for the conflict that happened in Charlottesville, if not more. If they hadn't shown up, that woman wouldn't have died. And you have to ask yourself that every time you do some kind of protest or some kind of demonstration. Is it worth the potential damage that it could cause? You can't know what'll happen, but if you show up to a group of people who are ready for you, they know you're going to show up, you're just feeding into it. You're helping their narrative. You're not making things any better, you're making it worse. What exactly did those protesters accomplish? What did they make better in that situation? Absolutely nothing. A woman's life was lost. People were hurt because they felt the need to show up, and they accomplished absolutely nothing. In this case, obviously, it's not like a violent protest, it's not a clash, but it's clearly a form of protest, it's a demonstration. And my question is, what exactly are you accomplishing? Like I said, you can't be raising awareness because who the hell hasn't heard of Parkland? If they didn't hear about it when it happened, they're not going to hear about it because of this. So what exactly are you accomplishing? I mean, you see these people here, these kids with these signs. We won't let the fire burn out. I don't really know what that means. It says never forget. Yeah, I mean, that is a great song in the Halo 3 soundtrack. But I don't understand what you're fighting for or against. That's not very clear. Guns don't matter more than innocent lives. Literally no one has ever said that, so I don't know what your point is. Yeah, I understand. Like, people in the NRA, they're, guns are a big deal. People who even aren't in the NRA, there are a lot of people for whom having their guns is a big deal, and I can understand that. But what message are you trying to get across here? Like, we don't like guns, okay, and some people do. And the overwhelming majority of people who own guns don't go around killing people, so what's your point? I agree. Like, in my opinion, there should be at least regulations on any kind of assault rifle. There should be regulations, if not just some kind of ban, basically. I don't want to go straight to banning them. There's no actual reason to have an assault rifle. The only explanation is, I like it. I like to have my assault rifle. That's the only justification you can have. It's not good for hunting. It's not really good for target practice. I mean, yeah, you can take it there, but it's not really... They're not really the greatest precision weapons. They're assault rifles. They're meant for mid-range... They're freaking, like, dumbed-down army weapons. Well, I guess kind of old school, like old model army weapons. But the only justification you can have is, I like it. That's it. That's all you got. And that's fine. I collect blades. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not using them to kill people. That'd be incredibly stupid. So I understand. So yes, something needs to be done in terms of gun control. But when people just talk about gun control, you never hear people actually propose any plan of action. And for me, I'm all about the specifics. I'm all about, okay, you can't just say we need gun control. It turns into this battle a lot of times, between right wing and left wing, where one side wants something ridiculous and the other side wants something ridiculous, and you just argue about it, nothing gets done. It's just bread and circuses. Nobody has to do anything because everybody has unrealistic expectations, because nobody seems to understand the reality of it. That, it is true. Guns don't kill people, people kill people. Guns, though, do make it easier to kill people. So we need regulations, and we need to enforce those regulations. We need to enforce those laws. But this problem it's about the people. Because not just anyone is going to be a mass murderer. Now, I don't understand why all these people are committing these heinous acts. I know that part of it is unquestionably the media, that if somebody feels like they have no control over their life, they become mentally unstable, they realize maybe that their life isn't going anywhere, they don't feel important, they don't feel like they have a path in life. But they see all these mass murderers who are talked about for weeks, who are recognized on television. They have their faces, their names thrown up most of the time. They get at least their 15 minutes of fame, if not days, weeks of fame. They go down in the history books. The media fuels the fire. So you've got these people who maybe nothing's going on in their life, or they think that nothing's going on in their life, that they can't go anywhere. So what do? Especially if they're mentally unstable? They think, oh, maybe I'll just kill a bunch of people. Then at least my name will mean something. Because for some people, it is much more frightening to be forgotten than to commit some sort of heinous act just to be remembered. That's why some people do it. It's not a coincidence that the more widespread the media has become, the more these things have happened. It's not just that we're hearing more about them, like they were always there and we're hearing more about them. It's that a lot of these people realize that they can get their 15 minutes of fame, 15 seconds, 15 minutes, whatever you want to say. Some of these people are they're crazy. They are legitimately mentally unstable. There's no single explanation that covers all these people. But it is about the people. We need to understand the psychology behind the kind of people who do this. Gun control is important, but if you don't actually try to understand what kind of people do this, why they do it, they're just going to find some other way. They'll pick up a freaking table knife and go around killing people if they have to. It's good to have these kind of regulations, but it's not just about gun control. It's about understanding why these people do it, because then maybe if we can find these people before this happens, if we can learn how to spot them, we can help them before they commit these crimes. That's the only way it's ever going to stop. And speaking of stopping, when this article says a national walkout to call for an end to gun violence, you fucking idiots. I'm sorry, yeah, it'd be nice if gun violence ended, but again, like I said, this is exactly what people do. Freaking idiots. These idiots who choose a political party. They say, I'm a liberal, I'm a conservative, and then they have these completely unrealistic goals. These goals of like, we're gonna build a wall, we want an end to gun violence. I mean, honestly, it comes down to something that they don't consciously realize. They don't realize, and this isn't true across the board, but a lot of people do this. They choose unrealistic goals because then they can fight for something without having to actually fight. They don't have to put a lot of effort into making change because the things they want, they know, are almost unattainable. It's so ridiculous, it's so unrealistic that it's never going to really happen. So that means they have something to continuously fight for. They have a cause that they never have to give up. So many people do this, and it's really not that surprising. Because when you get down to it, we're all afraid of insignificance. Ultimately, we're afraid of death. We're afraid of dying without changing anything. Dying without having any impact. That's natural. It's understandable. Anybody can empathize with that. We all feel that because we're mortal beings. So there are people out there who they fight to solve these just massive problems because they want something to fight for, but they also they want the problem to be unsolvable so that they never have to stop fighting for it. Because if they solved it, then oh shit, now what? What am I going to fight for now? Who am I? What is my identity without being in opposition to something or without being in support of something? You have to define yourself outside of what you fight for or fight against. Now, I'll openly admit that I have fought to deal with something that is one of those massive problems, human overpopulation. But that's only because it's something, I would argue, it's the greatest problem facing us nowadays, and it's really not talked about that much. It is a serious issue that ties into things like deforestation, the acidification of the ocean, climate change, increasing carbon in the atmosphere and how that affects the weather. It impacts everything on this planet. It's this massive problem that is really hard to deal with, but I'm working on trying to find solutions, realistic solutions, because it's something that is unavoidable. Because it's something that I care about because I care about this planet. I care about the people. I care about all the beings on this planet. But I'm not just fighting for human overpopulation. I'm not just standing there saying, we need to find a solution. No. I'm not out there shouting at people. Yes, I've tried before trying to raise awareness, but right now it's like, I'm just trying to find solutions and connect with other people who are also looking for solutions. I'm actually trying to do the work that it takes to make progress. I'm not just going out there and taking a selfie of myself with a sign that I made with a freaking crayon just so I can feel good about myself for the coming weeks because I stood up for something. I'm sorry. I'm not mad at these people for wanting to do something about gun violence. I'm not mad at them at all. I understand. But this kind of demonstration, it's ridiculous. It's stupid. What are you accomplishing? These students just think that they're fighting for something. They think that they're doing the right thing, when in reality, they're doing absolutely nothing. But as long as they're standing in a group of people who will reassure them that they're good and that they're fighting for their good cause, that's all they need. It's a freaking cult of affirmation. Anyway, I don't want to ramble on too much about this. I just wanted to address two main things. The first is just, like I said, what exactly is being accomplished here? What are the goals of this demonstration? Because I don't see what it's accomplishing. Like I said, it's not raising awareness. Really, it seems kind of funny. Like, we want to end gun violence, so we're going to walk out of school. We are foregoing education for this demonstration. Seems a little bit backwards. Like, almost like you're making a statement against being educated in favor of being against gun controls. It's like not really the demonstration that I would have chosen. And the second thing was just saying that this is a call for an end to gun violence. That is incredibly stupid. As long as there are guns, there will be gun violence. And someone may have the incredibly ridiculous idea of, well, what if there were no guns? Well, then it would be something else. It would be bat violence. It would be knife violence. It would be something, because people are violent. Like I said, this isn't just about the weapons, it's about understanding the people. If you want this shit to stop, first off, you can't have the belief that it's actually going to completely stop, but it's kind of like peace. Peace is something that you can never fully attain. There's never really world peace, but it is an ideal worth fighting for. There are certain things that are realistically unattainable, but they're worth fighting for because for as long as you can have some kind of peace, it's worth it. That is something that is worth fighting for. So I can understand somebody saying, let's fight to end gun violence, but it's just ridiculous. You're misframing the situation. You're focusing this on the guns when you should be focusing on the people. Because if there were no people, there would be no gun violence. If there were no guns, there'd still be violence. There would still be mass murders. It just wouldn't be with guns. You gotta understand that the people here are the key element. I can't believe that I have to explain this. It just seems like more and more people are falling into this trap of doing these protests, these demonstrations, and it really is just about being seen. They may not consciously realize it, but they just want to be seen. They want to hold up signs, they want to have pictures taken of them, they want to end up on the news, when in reality, they're not trying to fight against anything. They're not actually trying to change things. That's why when you look at what they've done, what progress they've made, it's freaking nothing. Nothing has actually changed. Why do you think I came up with the term inactive activists? Because that's exactly what they are. They get nothing done. They don't actually fight. They're not really moving toward anything. They're running away from their insecurities. That's all it is. They want to feel significant, and they want to feel like they're on the right side of history. So as long as they stand in a group of people who tell them that they matter and that they're fighting for a good cause, then they're good. Often the people who speak the loudest have the least to say. Protests and demonstrations can be helpful, but the reality is, at some point in time, if you want to actually get things done, You're going to have to put down the sign. You're going to have to leave the streets and actually do something. Join some kind of cause where you're doing something. You can't just march through the streets to fight against homelessness. You have to actually go and do something. Work at a homeless shelter. Fight to change some kind of legislation, to do something. You're not going to actually accomplish anything by holding up a paper sign and marching. You're definitely not going to accomplish anything by walking out of school. Every single one of those students should turn right back around, go into school, and get a damn education. Don't walk away from it as a demonstration. Go back to school and learn shit. If you want to make change, you better be ready to get your hands dirty. It's not an easy thing. You can't just hold up a sign. You can't just shout. People who really accomplish things don't spend their time walking through the streets chanting some kind of slogan. They're at home or at school, wherever they are. They got their nose in a book, or they're on the internet. They're learning, and they're trying to figure out realistic solutions to the problem. They're quiet. You know why? Because they're thinking. They're not acting prematurely. It's one thing to fight for a cause. It's another thing to cause change. And in my opinion, every single one of those students should sit down, shut up for a second, and meditate on that. Anyway, I'm Drachona, and have a nice day, guys.
At 10, everybody goes silent, and everybody lies down or sits down on the ground, okay? Because it's a lion. This is an amazing moment, and this is a part of history. There's a lot of cameras and a lot of press, but yeah, so just try and be silent for all